creator of Dry It, Can It. I'm not a professional, I'm a homemaker, but I like sharing tips on preserving food, particularly freeze drying, dehydrating, and canning food, as well as original recipes that I put together. I'm really excited today because I think I've cracked the code on rehydrating already cooked scrambled eggs. Lots of people will have videos online about how to freeze dry scrambled eggs. They're starting from a raw egg, but I wasn't able to find anybody that had a scrambled egg, freeze dried it, I want to say froze dried, and then rehydrated it. But I did it today and it worked really well with a couple of caveats. So, short backstory. When I first got my freeze dryer, I was excited to freeze dry about anything that I could think of. And one of the first things that I freeze dried was scrambled eggs because cleaning the pan is not my favorite thing to do. So I did a couple of packets. I did actually 2 packets of 4 eggs each. I did those about a year ago, not quite a year ago. And that was before I really learned a lot about freeze drying. I just wanted to use my machine. So I did my eggs, I scrambled them, I put them in a packet. I was so naive, I didn't even know you needed to use an oxygen absorber. So in the back of my head, I knew that I probably needed to use these sometime within a year or so. This morning, I took them out and I decided that I was going to try and freeze dry, I was going to try and rehydrate them. And if it didn't work, then I knew that I was going to powder these eggs and use them in some capacity. So most of the people that have tried this online have said that if you rehydrate an already cooked scrambled egg, it comes out rubbery. And I looked at what people did, and for the most part, they were using hot water or warm water, which makes sense because typically when you're rehydrating, if it's going to be a hot food or a warm food, you're going to use a hot or warm water. If it's a cold food, you're going to use cold water. That doesn't hold up true all the time. But as I thought about it with eggs, eggs are high protein, and if you put hot water or heat with them, it kind of binds those proteins, and I wondered if maybe that isn't what made the eggs rubbery. So what I did is I used cold water and then heated my eggs afterwards. And here's how I did that. So I put some eggs in a container and I added a little bit of water. Now I can't tell you exactly how much water because everybody's eggs are different sizes, the container you use might make a difference, etc. But really it was just enough to kind of get them damp. And I stirred it real well and I waited for a minute or so and I could tell that the eggs were still crunchy. So I added a little bit more water and I stirred it again. Now I did notice that the eggs were a little bit crumbly, so they did fall apart a little bit in that I ended up with some smaller pieces rather than the bigger pieces of scrambled egg that you sometimes have, though some of the pieces are still, reasonable size too. But when I added that water, I felt like I had enough. I had no water on the bottom of my container. I then let the eggs sit for about 5 minutes, stirring them a couple of times gently. After I checked, I had a really good consistency. They absolutely were not rubbery, and there again was no water sitting at the bottom of the container I was using. I did notice, however, when I tasted them that they tasted a little bit watery. Now, when I scrambled my eggs, I used no oil, no butter, no salt, no pepper, just because I had read that fat can make things rancid, and I didn't know how concentrated the salt was going to get. So after I rehydrated these, I melted some butter and I added that to the egg. And I used about the same amount of butter I would use if I was going to scramble the eggs with butter. And then I added some salt and pepper, and they tasted really good. They were not rubbery at all. The texture was great. They did, however, taste a tiny bit watery, and I think that is a result of my adding a little bit too much water. I think next time what I would do is a couple of different things. I probably will rehydrate with part milk and part water, or maybe just all milk, but again, I would start with cold. When I reheated these in the microwave, I did it at 70% for about 10-15 seconds. Your microwave is going to vary, but just until they were nice and hot, but I didn't want to bind those proteins. This worked really well, and I think that a little bit further experimentation will bring me a perfect result. I think next time I scramble the eggs, I probably will scramble them with a little milk, even though it's something I don't normally do, or maybe I'll add milk powder. But I think you definitely can pre-cook your scrambled eggs, freeze dry them, and rehydrate them, which opens up a whole bunch of things for traveling, which is my ultimate goal, to be able to take this to a hotel and have breakfast, or camping or hiking. If you added vegetables or meat with it, you could have those in a separate bag. You could rehydrate those with hot water, drain out your water, add a little bit of water with this, and you're going to have an egg scramble. So I couldn't find this idea anyplace online. I think I'm one of the first ones to discover it. If other people view this and put it on their channel, I hope you'll at least mention my channel or give me credit back on it, so that we can help each other grow. But for those of you watching, I'd really appreciate your subscribing to my channel. I'd appreciate a thumbs up if you learned something and if you're going to try this idea, and I'd love to hear your results. So anyway, I thank you for watching. I hope you will give this a try because it does work. So thanks for watching.